So, who really rules the skies in 2025? We're about to find out by taking a deep dive into the absolutely massive fleets of the world's top airlines. But this isn't just about counting planes. It's about what that size and their strategy tells us about the future of flying. Let's get right into it. But first, we've got to talk about the biggest puzzle in aviation right now. We're all traveling more than ever, right? The demand is through the roof. And yet, airlines are finding it almost impossible to grow. It's a weird paradox that actually ends up affecting everything from your ticket price to how old the plane is they're flying on. So, here's our flight plan. We'll kick things off with that big industry paradox. Then, we'll reveal the top 10 airlines on the planet. After that, we'll analyze the major forces that are changing the game. And finally, we'll break down what all of this means for you. All right, first up, aviation's 2025 paradox. This is really the story of what happens when an unstoppable force, that's our desire to travel, slams headfirst into a pretty immovable object. And here is the absolute heart of the issue. Passenger numbers have totally surged, blowing past even pre-pandemic levels. But the global supply chain that builds new airplanes, it's fragile, it's fractured, and it means airlines just can't get new planes fast enough to keep up. And the bottlenecks are literally everywhere. It's not just one little problem. Boeing is dealing with production slowdowns and some serious delays getting their new 737 MAX models certified. At the exact same time, Airbus is wrestling its own supply chain demons for their super popular A320neo family. And then, to top it all off, there are these widespread issues with getting engines, which can ground even a brand new plane. So, with that massive supply crunch happening in the background, how does it actually shake up the rankings? Well, it's time to check the global leaderboard. And here it is, the top 10 largest passenger airlines on Earth. Now, you can see the big US carriers are still dominating those top spots, but look closer. The picture is definitely shifting. You've got heavyweights from China, a powerhouse from Europe, and a super fast-growing airline from India making their presence known. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking right now, asking a really good question. Hey, what about those cargo giants? Where are FedEx and UPS in all this? That's a great point. The reason is simple. This list is strictly about passenger airlines. Cargo is a huge part of aviation. I mean, FedEx has almost 700 planes, but for this ranking, they're playing in a different league. We're only talking about the airlines that you and I can actually book a ticket on. And speaking of the top, just look at how incredibly tight this race is. United has managed to edge its way into that number one spot, but wow, American and Delta are right on its heels. All three of them are hovering around that 1,000 aircraft mark. It's a true battle of the titans. But here's what's so interesting. They're not all using the same playbook. United has gone on this aggressive offensive with its United Next plan, ordering over 700 new jets to grow fast. Delta, on the other hand, has historically played it a bit more conservatively, known for flying older planes for longer thanks to its amazing in-house maintenance. Now, though, they're hitting the accelerator on modernization, bringing in more premium jets like the A350. So you've got two very different paths to the top. Of course, we can't talk about giant fleets without talking about the low-cost heavyweights. In the US, you have Southwest, the world's largest low-cost carrier, with that iconic all-737 fleet of more than 800 planes. And over in Europe, Ryanair is just the undisputed champion, using its special high-density 737 Gamechanger jets to pack more people in and drive those ticket prices way down. Okay, so we've seen the rankings, we know who's on top. Now, let's peel back the layers and look at the huge forces that are reshaping the entire industry. These are the real trends behind the numbers. And you can really boil it down to three critical things. First, that supply chain squeeze we've been talking about. Second, the incredible rise of a whole new class of airplane. And third, a massive geographic shift in aviation's center of gravity. So, what in the world is this new plane? It's called the Mega Narrowbody. The perfect example is the Airbus A321neo. It's a single-aisle jet, right? But it's been stretched out so it can carry nearly as many people as a small wide-body jet, like an old Boeing 767. This lets airlines get the passenger count of a wide-body, but with the amazing fuel efficiency and lower costs of a narrow body. This one plane is a total game changer for how airlines plan their routes. And this brings us right to our third huge trend, the Asian shift. Yeah, the US still has the most airlines on the list, but just look at this breakdown. A full 40% of the world's biggest airlines are now based in Asia. You've got 3 from China and 1 from India. The balance of power in the skies is clearly, undeniably moving east.
And a key piece of that shift is the arrival of a brand new player on the scene. China's homegrown COMAC C919 is now flying for all 3 of its major state-owned airlines. Now, it's still just a small part of their fleets, but its very existence marks the first serious challenge to the decades-long dominance that Airbus and Boeing have had. It's a really big deal.
Okay, so we've talked about boardroom strategy, fleet numbers, supply chains, but what does all of this high-level stuff actually mean for your next trip? Let's bring it all the way down to the passenger experience. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to this simple fact. The massive battle for fleet size that's happening in corporate boardrooms directly, and I mean directly, shapes your experience when you're sitting in the cabin. And here's exactly how. First, those production delays. They force airlines to keep their older planes flying for longer than they originally planned. Second, the rise of those mega narrowbodies. It means airlines are upgauging, packing more seats and more people onto their most popular routes. But hey, there's a great side too. Ambitious airlines like Turkish are using their new, hyper-efficient wide-body jets to open up really cool new long-haul destinations that just weren't profitable before. And if you want a little preview of what the future of growth looks like, just think about this number. Indigo, that Indian airline at number 10 on our list, has nearly 1,000 new planes on order. That is the single largest order backlog of any airline anywhere in the world. It's a huge signal of where the growth is headed. Which, of course, brings us to our final massive question. We know what the leaderboard looks like in 2025, but when you see an order book of that size, you just have to wonder who is truly set up to dominate the skies for the next decade. The race is far, far from over.